Hi everyone. So I wanted to focus on the healing of memories for oneself. And healing of memories is something that's used in psychology, but we also use it in the church. So it's something that we did in our training as spiritual directors. I did this when I went to Loyola House. And basically what we do in this is every person's life has seasons. I think even in the mother's womb, they say what happens on the outside affects the baby, affects the child. So we grow up in situations where we have experienced the oppression of others as well as that of institutions and structures and the injustice of society. So for me, and for many others who have worked in the call center, it's left a psychological wound in us because we were abused on the calls, we were shouted at, we were yelled at. People used expletives on us. People called in and they masturbated on the calls. So it wounds your heart, it wounds your spirit, it wounds your psychology, and the employer has no compassion for you. You know, most of the time you're told, put yourself in the other person's shoes. But even if you put yourself in the other person's shoes, it doesn't give you the right to, or them the right to treat you like a slave. So, you know, for me, some days are very hard now. And if I need it, I will get medication from my doctor to help me to cope. Because it's not easy when you've been dealing with it for 5 years. And so some of the techniques that we can use to help us, aside from medication, we can call for a healing of memories in our prayer, and we can ask God for psychological healing. It rests on the fact that Jesus is the Lord of all time, past, present, and future. And when we pray, that's what we're doing. Like now, the world is united in praying for the healing of Pope Francis. People of all faiths are praying for him to get well. So we too can pray for the healing of our memories, for the healing of whatever it is in the past that is wounding us, the injustice, the pain, the anxiety that flares up. We can pray about it and we can ask God for healing. And it doesn't mean that it's a once-off thing and then it's finished. It can come up again and again and again. And so what we do with this is we begin with resting in the presence of God, and we recall God's love and God's power because God is in control of everything. We ask the Spirit's help in recalling the memories of the bad experiences of the past which are affecting us now and which are still wounding us, still bringing up pain in us. And then we become quiet and we let them come to mind. We walk back into those recollections with Jesus and imaginatively reconstruct what would happen. And then we thank Jesus for his love and for his healing. And sometimes this has to be done more than once. Sometimes we have to go to see a counselor or talk to somebody who's outside of that situation about the pain it's caused us in the workplace and the greater impact of that. And we know when we are healed because we can go back and revisit that memory and it will no longer cause us this kind of pain. It will no longer cause us to feel wounded, to feel like, you know, I'm going to get this out of me and I'm going to take revenge. And I think for most of us who have come through a civil war as children, this society may not respect us for it and they may not value it, but we know what strong people we are. And we know that for us to move forward from that, we had to be loving and kind and generous, and our strength is not the strength of revenge. Our strength is the strength of justice and the strength of love, which Canada will never get, because they were the oppressor. They were the ones helping to keep us oppressed, to keep apartheid going, to keep us in our place. And the white people of this country will never understand it, because they were the oppressors. And they are still the ones that hold most of the top jobs, who get the positions of power, who get the good incomes. And the rest of us, very few of us get to that point. So we have to remember who we are in Christ, and remember that we are created in the image and likeness of God. And nobody can take that away. Nobody can remove that from us, even though our skins may not be as white as theirs. We are created in the image and the likeness of God. And once we get that sense of healing, that sense of things are starting to heal, then we can start taking risks and we can start moving forward. Because I know I'm not the only one who was hurt by those calls in the contact center at Teleperformance. I know I'm not the only one that used to get upset stomachs and mess myself and say, really, is this how people are? And was disgusted with having to lock my bag in a locker like I'm a 16-year-old going to high school. Even in high school, we never did that in Zimbabwe. That's an American thing, of putting your things in a locker, and it's something we saw on the movies. But for us, our education was built on trust. We kept our bags with us, we kept our phones with us, we kept our pens with us. We kept everything with us. And then when you come here, they tell you that, oh no, it's risk regulation and it's the law and it's the policy of the company. And people are very psychologically jarred by it. It's very jarring. If you've come to a country and you've come out from somewhere where you've had so much freedom and you're coming into this oppressive culture, it's very, very hard. I sat and I cried today. I miss Zimbabwe so much. I sat and I cried. But I am here. I'm not in Zimbabwe. So I pray for that healing to come for me. And it's awful. It's really awful when people are going at you and saying, well, why should I give you my money? And so I paid for this, so you should have sent it to me in good condition. You know what? That person sitting in the call center didn't take your product and throw it into the sea, or didn't cause the floods to come, or didn't cause you to get a damaged product, but you take it out on us like it's our fault, like we did it to you. And people even lie. They're having one conversation with you, they're telling the person that they're in the room with a completely different story, and you can hear it. And you can't correct it, because why? That person that they're in the room with doesn't trust you. They trust the person that's in the room with them. So that's what you're dealing with when you come here to North America. And it's very, very awful. If somebody had any sense of compassion, they would actually sit and cry to think about what they're doing to us. But they don't, because as far as they're concerned, they're giving you a job to do and they want you to do it, and they don't care if you're getting hurt on those calls or if you've come from a country where you've had more freedom than you have here. And the call centers are treated like criminals by the police. You hear them on the calls. They say, here we go, we gotta, let's go. And then they go at you on the calls. They go at you. It's like taking a whipping, except it's psychological. That's how awful it is. And I'm not joking. I'm not the only one that goes through it. There are thousands of people who are working in call centers that are going through what I went through. And not all the calls are bad. Yes, I know that. And not all the chats are bad, and not all the emails are bad. But the ones that are bad are really awful. And the worst ones are the ones that come from Texas and the deep south. Because those ones, they're so nice to you. But underneath that niceness, you can hear the bitterness and you can hear the anger, especially when they hear your accent. You can hear it. So it's really something. And I know I'm not the only one that it's going to take time for it to heal. It's going to take time for us to say, you know what, that's in the past. And each time you get a new call, a new chat, a new email, it doesn't matter whether you sat on that phone call for an hour and somebody went off on you. You're expected to treat the next person with consideration. So it's awful. It's awful. I know that in some places, and I even told them this at Teleperformance, I said, why don't you have a message? Talk to the clients and have a message at the beginning of the calls to say, please treat our employees with respect. And if you do not, the call will be terminated. The employee will hang up on you. Because I know that other places have it. I know that CRA has it. And I know they put a warning in the message to say that abuse of our employees or any disrespect, swearing, yelling, shouting will not be tolerated. I told them many times. That's all I can do. So I'm just laying this out as a pattern. It's something you can use if you like it, if you're interested in it. And if you don't like it and you don't believe in the power of prayer, just ignore it. Because it's not for everyone, it's for those who believe. So it's 2 pages in this book. I've tried to summarize it. But it's something that is used in very extreme situations. And believe you me, this is an extreme situation. Because even some of our supervisors know, and they'll defend me and they'll tell people that what she's saying is right and it's true. And I'm shocked actually, because the abuse and all that goes on here, we never dealt with things like this in Zimbabwe. And I never dealt with it in England. I never experienced anything like this until I came here. And then they tell you, well, focus on the other person's feelings. And what about our feelings? In a way, it's good that AI is taking over and robots are taking over some of these jobs, because human beings, the feelings work on both sides, not only on one side. So that's what I just wanted to share that, because it's something that I'm using to heal myself. And it's a technique that I learned for spiritual direction. It's something that I've used in group work as well as in individual work when working with people. And it's something that has been taught to me in the Ignatian tradition, the tradition of Saint Ignatius and the Jesuits. And I'll just finish with this poem. It's called "The Ability to Risk Can Be a Sign of Healing." To laugh is to risk appearing the fool. To weep is to risk appearing sentimental. To reach out for another is to risk involvement. To expose feelings is to risk exposing your true self. To place your ideas and dreams before the crowd is to risk their loss. To love is to risk not being loved in return. To live is to risk dying. To hope is to risk despair. To try is to risk failure. But risk must be taken, because the greatest hazard in life is to risk nothing. The person who risks nothing, does nothing, has nothing, and is nothing. One may avoid suffering and sorrow, but one simply cannot learn, feel, change, grow, love, live. Chained by one's certitudes, one is a slave. That person has forfeited life. Only a person who risks is free. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. When I'm myself, people here don't like me. When I'm not myself, people adore me. So you have to fake it until you make it. The real ones, the real friends who know me and who love me and who accept me for who I am are not in this country. They are elsewhere. And they know who they are.